We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Buzz is jam-packed today. The Calvin Ridley jokes, Atlanta Falcons wide receiver, banned, suspended indefinitely, at least the entirety of all next season, potentially more. He might not ever play it down in the NFL again for betting a handful of parlays. I think it was a 3, 5, and 18 parlay, all of which involved the Falcons winning. That in of itself is a risk. He took a risk, right? He should not be banned for being one of us, in my opinion, for as long as he did. My thought on it is Calvin Ridley getting suspended for an entire season for not leveraging insider information on a $100,000 bet on the Falcons to lose or something like that. He bet a total of $1,500 on 3 different parlays, which already in and of itself have a low percentage of hitting, and lost probably a lot of those, right? You don't win a lot of 18 parlays, especially on $1,500 bets. To give him a whole season, obviously the NFL is making something out of this, right? And trying to make him a mark for this, where it's like, don't ever do this again. But for a league that is sponsored by FanDuel on Red Zone and that's actively promoting betting, to go a full season when other players in the NFL have been suspended as low as 2 games for domestic violence on camera.
That's a horrible argument.
How is that
an absolutely horrible argument?
How is that a horrible argument?
Those have nothing to do with each other. Those have absolutely nothing to do with each other. One is the actual integrity of the game.
How is the integrity of the game betting on parlays?
It's
parlays. He's not even a part of the team.
You cannot risk the public falling out of favor of sports betting is the thing. Like thinking that these guys are throwing the game one way or another.
Instead, they're thinking these guys are beating the shit out of women. That's more integrity, in my opinion. I don't understand how you can. Like I said, the amount of money and the fact that they were parlays while he was away from the team, not actively playing. I don't understand how you can suspend him an entire season.
I'm just saying it's such a disingenuous argument to bring up things like that, and kind of disgusting to bring up someone else's trauma to a comparator when that is a legal issue outside of the game of the NFL. This is literally the game of the NFL. This is literally stuff that's happening on the football field. This guy has inside information too, that they're completely different scenarios. So to compare the two is, my opinion, like I said, not a comparison that I would ever want to make. I just think that you have to. This is not an unprecedented. This is actually one of the lowest suspensions anyone's ever gotten for sports gambling. Pete Rose can't even be around a baseball field anymore because he gambled on sports. There is a lot of history in the sports gambling space that this is about as tame a penalty as you see. Josh Shaw got more 2 years ago for betting on the NFL. So for them to say that, everyone here is out here promoting it, that's good for these players. They're making more money because the NFL is promoting sports gambling. They are pocketing every year. The cap is going up, and they're getting a share of that because they're promoting the sports betting. So for you to say, give this one thing that you can't do, you can't do it because it is literally about the integrity of the game. You are jeopardizing the faith of the public in the product by going out there and betting on your own game, whether you bet for your team or not. You get tweets like Emmanuel Acho saying, I'm not the guy to say he was throwing a game, but look, here's a play where he runs backwards when he should run forward. You're going to risk that in every avenue. And like I said, that can very quickly devolve. If you give this guy a slap on the wrist for betting on it, people will think, it's no big deal. Go bet through my cousin, whatnot. I think this was, people were saying that it was too much, too harsh, and comparing to, like I said, other suspensions. To me, it's just ridiculous. This is about the most lenient penalty you ever receive sports gambling if you're gambling on the sport that you're playing in.
I just my opinion of it is if it was only $1,500, it was 3 different bets on parlays. It should not be an entire season. That's absurd. It was not. If it was insider information, he literally was betting on 3 different games. He was this was not on his phone through the Hard Rock app. This was not going through someone to get a $100,000 bet on finding out Matt Ryan was. This was not insider information. It wasn't. He picked the Falcons to win. They were 6-7. -10 against the spread. Like this, in my opinion, you have to factor in like the weight of the bet and like actually how much insider information was taking place and how much he was trying to like win off of it. It was like, fuck you money to Calvin Ridley. And it was not a problem. It was one instance. I really don't think that it should have been an entire year. And I agree it shouldn't have been a slap on the wrist. It shouldn't have been a single game suspension. It should have been a fine. But to do a whole entire season, I just think, and maybe it is disingenuous to compare it to stuff that doesn't, hurt the integrity of the game or public faith of the game. I mean, I just view it as like, what's objectively worse? Like, what's objectively worse? What's a worse decision to make as a human being as part of the league? And it's not even close. It's like legitimately not even close.
Then like blame your government for not putting Ray Rice behind bars or whatever you want to say, or Greg Hardy behind bars. Blame your government for that, because I don't look to the NFL to judge my morality of what I think a guy is. I just look for them to protect the shield, and this is what they're doing, is protecting the shield.
I just don't know how making sure the people who are within the shield aren't pieces of shit is not protecting the shield as well. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that they didn't make a statement out of a lot of the other people that have been in the NFL. They made a statement out of Calvin Ridley for a couple parlays. Aaron Rodgers, also the other big news. The report is that he is signing a 4-year, like $200 million extension. But Brad Spielberger of PFF is reporting also that the deal between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers is not done, per PFF Brad and Pat McAfee also calling out that the deal is not done. Aaron Rodgers and McAfee reported that Aaron Rodgers is coming back to Green Bay. Then Rappaport of NFL Media came out and said it's a 4-year, $200 million deal, I think included with $153 million guaranteed. Talking to Brad Spielberger, who's a cap analyst here at PFF, he said that the deal is not done, and that actually that report from Rappaport is stalling things from getting a deal actually done. Now, does the deal ultimately get done? Absolutely, but I think the figures of the 4-year, $200 million could be different. The guaranteed could be different. The signing bonus could be different because that contract is not inked.
Yes, and this was always, like last week, there was the report that Aaron Rodgers' decision's still up in the air, and to me, that was always behind the scenes, them working on a cap number, because for him to stay in Green Bay, they had to rework this. They could not sit with this $46.6 million cap hit that he is scheduled for in 2022 on the books. So no matter what, and by this tag deadline, there had to be something, like you weren't going to all of a sudden decide on the tag deadline, try to negotiate an entire contract on the tag deadline, and for you to then remain a Green Bay Packer. So to me, he had made this decision some time ago that he wanted to be a Green Bay Packer. They had been working on this deal behind the scenes for some time, and that his sort of the waffling, whatever, in the press was him or his agent leaking that to these guys, saying, as a way of negotiating to say, get me more money. I can still pull back from this deal. Even though I want to be a Green Bay Packer, I'm still more than willing to pull back and get traded somewhere else should you not meet my demands. So I think that's where we're at. And with whatever that $200 million figure, you say it may not be accurate, whatever, is a high leap from what we've seen in the past. And obviously he deserves that. He's a 2-time MVP, reigning MVP. And you deserve to be the highest paid quarterback in football, but he's definitely in a negotiation where this ain't no team-friendly Tom Brady deal at the end of his career. This is, I still want to be paid what I'm worth, and I still want to be a Green Bay Packer.
He is going to make a lot of money. I think regardless of whether the deal is done, this thing's going to be a freaking monster. I also think that what Brad was telling me is it's not necessarily that the $200 million figure is off, but it's actually how much is guaranteed and what is the signing bonus, like the intricacies of how it's laid out, how big is the cap hit in 2022 versus 2023. Like a lot of those details are being worked out. Whereas obviously Rappaport comes out, I think that blanketed $200 million 4-year deal is what's being agreed to right now. Your reactions to how that affects the Green Bay Packers long term? Obviously, I've always said from the jump, Aaron Rodgers is the only thing over the next 2 to 3, 4 years probably that makes the Green Bay Packers Super Bowl competitive. So you have to pay whatever the hell you can to keep him in Green Bay in Lambeau. Now, what this does to build around him is obviously difficult. Like, it's difficult. It's what the Chiefs are going through. Like, it's what through a lot of other teams that have given these monster deals to. It's going to be more difficult to build a competent roster, especially if you're not hit in the draft. If you miss in the draft and you spend picks on a fucking backup quarterback now for the entire rookie contract, a backup running back for his entire rookie contract, a fullback that can't see the field, you will lose. You will lose this bet on Aaron Rodgers. Maybe you shoot the moon with the roster you have. You can't afford to draft backups anymore, period. You need to draft guys that can see the field at valuable positions. And if Green Bay can hit on that, it'll be a Super Bowl window for sure.
I think, interestingly enough, they are not going to be a better team, in my opinion, next year than they were this past year, in terms of just on paper. But they may have even a better chance of winning the NFC despite being probably a worse team on paper than they were, like I said, this past year, because you have Cowboys taking a step back, you have the Rams taking a step back, you have the Tampa Bay Bucks obviously taking a step back. Like, who's coming up in the NFC? Who's going to come up and like challenge them? The 49ers are the one team that probably scares me the most with Trey Lance. And, if he makes that second-year leap, that they would, already beat them in the playoffs this past year. If he's even better, a significant amount better than Jimmy Garoppolo, they look like one of the front runners in the NFC. So, to me, they could run it back in a way where, maybe they're cutting some guys and maybe don't have the exact same talent, but in a way still could be the front runner in the NFC. So with the elephant in the room here is Jordan Love not panning out, or at least not through 2 years even showing signs of life, is what's creating this leverage that Aaron Rodgers has to really stick it to them in terms of contract negotiations. Really, like they can't get rid of him or else they will not be good. Like they can't get rid of him and go in with Jordan Love. They drafted Jordan Love to try to avoid this, to try to avoid that sort of negotiating lack of leverage, to say, oh, we have a backup plan, we'll just flip you, we'll trade you. And that was probably the initial, like with the way he had kind of been playing from 2017 to 2019, not the elite level we expected. That was probably the initial plan. The problem was where they went about it and the player they drafted. I obviously didn't agree with at the time, and in 2 years' time is still looking worse. Now, do they flip him? I don't know. I think you just bite that bullet and keep a quality backup that's been in your system for this long at this point. But that's kind of the elephant in the room, is that Jordan Love was not good enough for them to be able to trade Aaron Rodgers here.
I don't even know if that is an elephant everywhere, right? It's not even just in the room. They know that. They're screaming that from the rooftops. Jordan Love knows that. That team knows that. And obviously teams even like thinking of trading for him know that. Mitchell Trubisky is going to get more on the open market than Jordan Love would be.
Although I just saw Jim Nagy tweet that he asked team personnel, they think he could get a second rounder. I know Benjamin Albright said he couldn't get anything before day 3. I tend to lean more towards what Albright tweeted than Nagy, but Nagy was asking personnel guys, what they think he'll get, which is like, it's easy to say, oh yeah, you could get a second rounder.
From an evaluation perspective.
Yeah, exactly. But put your nuts on the table. You're going to give up a second round for Jordan Love?
Dude, you do that? I mean, what's a team that would be dumb enough to do that? Carolina?
They don't have one. I was going to say.
Last piece of the Catch and Only Buzz is we're officially labeling the podcast audience not just Gators, Master Gators.
There we go.
Master Gators, I hated initially, and I don't know if I'm in love with it yet. But as long as Gators is in it, because I've taken to Gators, I like Master Gators.
It at least eliminates kind of that Florida connection that I didn't love myself.
No, for sure.
Master Gators. This was shout out to Charlie, friend of the pod. He came in the DM saying, I got the best way to get around the Gators thing, call them Master Gators. And we are
Charlie Metzger, right?
Charlie Metzger.
So Charlie Metzger, we met on the Tailgate podcast or Tailgate tour in Alabama. He's from Cincy.
Across the river in Covington.
He's from Covington, which is close to Cincy, like 20-minute drive. But he goes to Alabama, I think. Huh?
Not even that far, probably 5-minute drive.
I don't drive. It's a 20-minute bike ride. And he's a freshman. He was a freshman last year at the University of Alabama. Big shout out to him. He's a big Tailgate fan.
We may have broken the law.
I don't think he's a freshman, actually. I think he's
an old freshman.
I think he's a redshirt senior. But he's a good dude. We hung out with him and had some good times in Tuscaloosa. Off of Master Gators and on to the proud sponsor of this podcast, the main sponsor of this podcast, Manscaped. Can I get a round of applause, everyone? Today, I'm excited to announce Manscaped launched their Ultra Premium Collection. Believe it or not, it's not for your not-so-private parts. Believe it or not, it's for your not-so-private parts. I'm talking about a leveled-up hygiene routine with your favorite manly scent. This is an all-in-one skin and hair kit for the everyday man and covers you from head to toe. Literally, Manscaped is trusted below the waist. Now trust them with the rest. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with code PFF. I'd recommend using the products in this order. 1, dive in a bowl of mud. You got to get smelly. 2, hop in the shower, scrub it dub that body with the Manscaped body wash. 3, lather your hair up with a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner to keep your noggin toggin. 3 or 4, dry off and spray on the hydrating body moisturizer moisturizer to reinvigorate dry skin. 5, put on the Manscaped deodorant for obvious reasons. Pop the Manscaped lip balm on. No one is out here kissing chapped lips. Getting dressed after is optional. Wear one great scent all day long. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code PFF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping with the code PFF at manscaped.com. The power of attraction is now in the bottle, thanks to Manscaped. Do you ever put the ball deodorant on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Every day?
No, I'm not that. I
On
don't
occasions?
even put normal deodorant on every day. Let's get
That's
real.
not true.
Weekends, for sure.
Oh, okay. I see you. I see you balling out for the boys.
I mean, just-
balling out for the boys.
I didn't mean it like that, but like, you know,
Okay.
if other people are going to smell me besides you, that's
It's true.
okay. That also made it weird sounding.
We live together now, so it's all the same.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's still, we don't have to.
Defensive tackles. We're going to go through the defensive winners from the combines. Winners, losers, back to the tape, and the pump to breaks for the combine. Starting with winners at the defense tackle position. I feel like Jordan Davis was kind of a winner. I think he did okay at the combine.
Yeah, that was a fine performance for a DT.
I honestly, watching it live, when he got out of the 10, I literally said, holy shit. He was moving, dude. And I thought it was going to be high 4.9s, maybe like mid to low 4.9s, to get to 4.78, and then Nagy's tweeting out that some scouts had him at like a 4.76 and all this shit. That was one of the more, I tweeted it out, and it's probably a save your likes type of tweet, but like that was probably the most absurd combine performance we might ever see. To do that at the size he did, I don't know if we'll see again. And then he goes out and does the broad jump, and that was almost equally absurd.
Yeah.
It's an insane performance for Jordan Davis. I feel now Jordan Davis does not get past 16. The Eagles are taking him at 15 or 16, in my opinion. And I think all those Georgia boys, Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis, and Trayvon Walker, are all going in the top 16 picks. Some people were putting together this pipe dream, us included, that he'd go to the Chargers. This level of athleticism, this rarity of a human being, is not going to slip outside the top half of the first round.
Yeah, he completely showed up Devontae Wyatt, because Devontae Wyatt had an all-time performance too. 4.77 at 307 pounds is nothing to sneeze at. But
True. So did Travis Jones. I mean, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But
to put into context, though, how insane Jordan Davis's 40 was. Of players who have ever run the 40-yard dash pre-draft at 340-plus pounds, so he's 341 pounds, players that have ever done it, he is 0.2 of a second faster than anyone else in the 40. 0.2 of a second. I remember Dontari Poe was like, oh, he's a freak. Jordan Davis is like on a different level than even Dontari Poe, who was on his own level.
yeah.
Versus everyone else that size. So, of the players 330-plus pounds who have broad jumped, only one other guy has ever been above 9.7. So he is in his own like tier of guys that size, that explosive.
98th percentile height at 6'6". This is for the defensive tackle position for the combine dating back to 2000.
Yeah.
341 pounds, that's 97th percentile. 34-inch arms, 80th percentile. Almost 10.75-inch hands, 86th percentile. 4.78 40-yard dash, 94th percentile, and that's not weight adjusted. Weight adjusted, it's one of the best combine performances behind Calvin Johnson. 1.68 10-yard split, 86th percentile, 77th percentile, 32 vertical, and a 98th percentile broad. Again, what he did was freaking insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But the thing is, like, it completely just.
Wait, stop.
Oh, no.
The Broncos are trading for Russell Wilson.
Oh, no.
They've agreed, per
yes.
Adam Schefter, after weeks of negotiations in one of the largest trades in NFL history. The Seattle Seahawks and Denver Broncos have agreed to terms for a deal involving Super Bowl winning quarterback Russell Wilson. Trade is pending a physical and Wilson's approval. Holy shit.
They did it. Congrats to the Broncos. That's awesome. I mean, so large trades in NFL history, I fully expect that's going to be like number 9 this year, first next year, maybe 3 firsts. If that's one of the large trades in NFL history, that's probably what it's going to take.
Do you think any players, too?
I don't know. If with the Seattle Seahawks, like the one that keeps getting thrown into trades has been Jerry Jeudy. They got receivers. I don't know if they're going to need a third. Like they like their 3 there, so I'm not sure that would be who they throw in. Maybe I'm trying to even think. I don't think you throw in Surtain. No, I don't know. But that immediately makes the Broncos at least a chance in the West. Now, the one team that has to just be like, what the hell is going on? It's the Las Vegas Raiders, dude. Could you imagine being in a division and that's your quarterback?
Stop.
Look at what Aaron Rodgers is quarterbacks in his division. You got Kirk, you got Goff, you got second year in Justin Fields versus what the Raiders have to go up against. My goodness, that's one of the more stacked quarterback divisions in NFL history at this point. Woo.
The West is the Raiders are toast. The Raiders' ability to win the West is toast. For Denver, though, I also feel that they're one of these positions that we were consistently trading a Rodgers to, or trading Kirk Cousins to, now Russell Wilson going to Denver. Offensive line, in my opinion, is middle of the pack. I think they need to make upgrades, specifically at right tackle. Bobby Massey was there last year, just a 71.0 PFF grade. They finished the year 19th in PFF's offensive line rankings. Jerry Jeudy needs to step forward. I think you need to see some improvement from some of that supporting cast, right? Like Russell Wilson is going to, in my opinion, a better situation in Denver, specifically on defense. Yeah. But this isn't a world-beating offense that, in my opinion, is a quarterback away. I also think this is they're obviously going to lose a lot of draft picks here. They need Jerry Jeudy to step up. They need Cortland Sutton to step up. They need Noah Fant. They need Albert Okwuegbunam. Like all these players that we felt Drew Lock was equipped to take to the moon. Russell Wilson needs to come in and make some moves. And Nathaniel Hackett now in an absolute prime position to really live up to expectation. I was really impressed with him, the head coach now of the Denver Broncos, with how he approached the podium and what he wants to do on offense and how much Denver really has crowded him with support. He now has his quarterback. It's time to go cook. This is going to be an awesome thing to follow in Denver.
And they did what we were saying. Like if you're one of these teams with the roster like that, like them, like the Steelers, like even maybe Washington, you got a roster already that's like there, good enough. Why not make that play? Like why, with it, you're not going to in this class find Russell Wilson. I don't think like it's going to be a pipe dream to do so. So why not?
Now I'll say this: I mocked a Russell Wilson trade to, I think it was the Washington Commanders, is who I mocked him to. But now Russell Wilson going to the Denver Broncos, likely Seattle sitting at 9. Do they take a quarterback? Do they take Malik Willis if he falls to 9? Do they take Sam Howell? I think you've comped him to Russell Wilson in the past. Do they take a Kenny Pickett? All the rumors coming out of Indianapolis is that Malik Willis is going to be off the board before 6. A lot of people see him going to the Detroit Lions at number 2 overall. Some feel that the Carolina Panthers are high on him. So I doubt a Malik Willis falls that far. But now at 9, does another quarterback go inside the top 10 in what has been a very bad quarterback class, or at least talked about it so?
Here's the thing, though. You were 7-10 last year, and yeah, Russ missed some time. But you were 7-10 last year, and you're in the NFC West, probably the best NFC division. You're not going to be good. You're not going to. I don't care who you get in there, and even if it is a rookie, especially if it is a rookie, you are firmly in contention for number 1 overall next year. So, I could see if you're Seattle just saying, take your lumps and see what we can do next year in this quarterback class.
It's going to be an ultimate rebuild, obviously. I mean, they're going to have so much picks and all. The other question, and this is the other question we've talked about whenever dealing Russell Wilson in any hypothetical situation is Pete Carroll part of the rebuild? Oldest coach in the NFL. I'm not saying it's over for Pete Carroll in Seattle, but the next time they're Super Bowl competitive probably will be some time, 2 or 3 years before this team is Super Bowl competitive. What does this mean for your Rashad Penny fantasy shares too? That's a big piece of this as well.
Well, he was a free agent anyway, so.
God damn it. Well, they got to bring him back.
now you know. That's the face of the franchise.
Final thoughts on Russell Wilson, then we'll get back to the defensive combine review. I had to break that news, though. Couldn't let us go this whole podcast without it. Rank the teams in the AFC West.
No.
Rank them.
Tough. KC's number 1 still. I think Denver's number 2 for me. It's just because they have answers on defense that the Chargers could get there post free agency, post draft. I could be flipping those, but that's where I stand right now. And then Chargers 3, Raiders a quality 4. I'll just say, but 4 nonetheless.
I'm gonna get back on the soapbox here, and I've had this conversation with you ad nauseum, and you were always a proponent of extend Derek Carr now.
Derek Carr.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Your window's over. Your window's done. It's toast. You're not Super Bowl competitive in an AFC West with 3 objectively better quarterbacks than the one you have. Like, you're not. The defense is 8 starters away.
He's 30 years old. He's 30 years old. Derek Carr's 30 years old.
And what? Russell, I
still you'll be your quarterback for the next 7 to 8 years. Like, you have, that's your window.
And how many divisions do they win?
I don't know.
With Derek Carr. How many divisions?
They win before Derek Carr?
0.
Yeah, and they won it with them. So
they didn't win that division.
Back in 2017, they didn't win the division?
No, they came in second.
Oh, never mind. All right.
They haven't won a single division with him, and they won't win a single division with him moving forward. Yeah. Why not reset? You were saying that the Raiders would say no to 2 first-round picks. Fuck. Now the Steelers are looking desperate. Other teams looking desperate. The Raiders roster is not in a position to compete in that division, period.
Yeah, this is tough. That's why I could never believe McDaniels. That was the opportunity he liked. But
it's such a similar situation to Minnesota and Green Bay. You have a quarterback that'll make you competitive, but Aaron Rodgers is always going to truck you. I mean, it's just going to truck you. You're not going to be in a position, regardless of what you're paying Kirk Cousins. Anyway, let's get off of it. Defensive tackles. We highlight Jordan Davis as a massive winner. I mean, I read off his percentile stuff. It's freaking absurd. He's one of the, I think, rarest people to ever take place at the combine. Yeah, it was on a fast track. I actually had a talk with a trainer who trains Aiden Hutchinson as part of the Hutch podcast, and he talked a lot about how just terrible Indy is set up to perform. Boye Mafe woke up at 6 a.m. the day he tested and ran his 3-cone at 11:30
p.m. Yuck.
That's insane. You're not going to get ideal times. It's getting to a point where it doesn't make sense. And I found out why the running backs didn't test. It was 12 a.m. when they got done with the other drills, and they said we can't do it. So no running back even got to test. How insane is that? That's insane.
What kind of shit show are you?
Because I was like, oh, you saw, running backs not able to test, and that's a concern. He's like, no, they didn't choose not to test. They couldn't test.
The thing that I don't understand is why do you have to be live in primetime? Like, you can show it in primetime.
No, but the numbers will get out and the whole thing will be toast.
Whole thing would not be toast. I mean, like, I guess there's something to immediacy, but like, people would still watch. I mean, are you really? Like, you would get the numbers out, and people would be like, "Oh shit, there's going to be a set."
Jordan I don't think as many people watch. And I told this to the trainer too. Like, after we stopped recording, I was like, you could. He's like, they just need to sit down with someone who understands like the body and understands how they should be trained, when they should wake up, and how these events should be split up. I was like, honestly, dude, you sit down with the NFL and tell them all that shit. They don't care. Yeah. Tell them how they're going to make more money off the event, and maybe something will change. Maybe. And the only time they've ever made a move at the combine, how it was going to be shifted, was when they almost had this whole boycott. They went from COVID's a big concern, we're bubbling everything up, to like, hey, fuck it, we're going to let everyone in. I didn't think I saw a single media person with a mask on all week.
Yeah. But back to defense tackles.
Devontae Wyatt's the next guy.
Devontae Wyatt, all-time 40-yard dash of that size. Travis Jones, though, is the guy who got overshadowed to a massive degree. A 7.33 3-cone for a 325-pound man is insane. I think we don't understand how insane that is. That's nearly identical to what Treylon Burks ran at 100 pounds less. That 3-cone that's what translates to all-around playmaking at the next level. Obviously, the 40 was great too. But this guy could be a back-end around one type of nose tackle. It would not surprise me whatsoever if Travis Jones, after this performance, snuck in the first round. He's just such an easy mover at that size.
Dane Brugler had him mocked at 28 in his 2-round mock draft. I think that's the first time I've seen him mocked in the first round. Yeah. He had 81st percentile height, 91st percentile weight, 84th percentile arms, 81st percentile hands, and then upper 60s, 70s for the 40, the 10-yard, the broad, the 3-cone. He was, again, I think we said this when we were watching it together at the house, Jordan Davis is having a combine to a point where Travis Jones, Devontae Wyatt, even Trayvon Walker were not being talked about at all. And they were also having all-time otherworldly combines. How about losers from the defensive tackle group?
Yeah, DeMarvin Leal, we said he's a tweener, Texas A&M defensive tackle / defensive end, who played probably more defensive end than he did actually defensive tackle. 6'4", 238 is what he shows up at, which, like I said, it's a weird size for NFL standards. Like, you better be, if you're 280s, you better play like.
Drew Lock is a part of the trade to the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, no.
It couldn't get worse. If they start Drew Lock for 17 games next year, come on.
I mean, you might as well throw him in, though.
Quinn sent a message into the Tailgate Slack channel, and he says, you guys made fun of me for saying Seattle might be the worst sports city. That's bad. If you trade Russell Wilson and force the 12th man to watch Drew Lock for 17 games, that's assault. That is assault. Oh, my gosh.
That's tough. That's tough.
Go ahead. Keep going. I'm sorry, but the news is just breaking.
And so for him at 283 pounds to test like a run-of-the-mill defensive tackle that you'd expect like a 310-pounder, 5-second 40, 27.5-inch vert, not even a 9-foot broad, and a 4.49 shuttle. Those are just mid numbers for a guy who, like I said, can't be under. You can be undersized and succeed in the NFL. You can be middlingly athletic and succeed in the NFL. There's almost no guys that are middlingly athletic and undersized that succeed in the NFL.
Back to the tape, Thomas Booker. He was a guy that was impressive at the East West Shrine Bowl, I believe. I sat down with him and talked to him for a while. Very smart dude. A guy that's played like multiple positions along the defensive line for Stanford. Guy that also tested well.
He really, on his tape from watching it prior to Shrine Bowl, he really didn't have like moves. He's kind of one of those guys who like everything he did as a pass rusher looked like he was defeating the block in the run game, where he's like tries to engage and then tries to get off, and it's like rinse repeat, him trying to rush the passer. But that's an athlete. Like you trust that you can teach athletes to get after the passer in the NFL much more than you trust non-athletes who use their hands well already. Trust the guys who are 6'3", 301 pounds with 33.25-inch arms that run 4.94s and have 7.33 three cones. I trust that guy to develop into something more so than I do, like I said, guys who may use their hands better already, may have some moves already, but just don't have the level of juice you need to succeed. So Thomas Booker, have to go back and watch tape on him.
I know where you wanted to pump the brakes on this defensive tackle class was alleviating every single concern we had with Davis on tape, right? Still a guy that played so everyone talks about how he played on early downs, and that's why he didn't have a lot of pressures and the snap limitations because they're so loaded along the defensive line. He only played 43% of their early downs, which was the lowest of any defensive tackle on that team. Like Devontae Wyatt played more, others played more. Yeah. He was not as good as other defensive tackles on his team from the coach's perspective, right? Like he's not even playing the highest percentage of early downs, let alone throw passing downs out the window. Everyone knows that Devontae Wyatt and the other defensive tackles that they had, Jalen Carter, were better pass rushers on those obvious passing downs. But the fact that he's playing, of those defensive tackles, Carter and Wyatt, the lowest percentage of even early down snaps, I still think raises the snap concerns conversation, but also raises the fact like, hey, not even the best defensive tackle on his team, I would still not draft Jordan Davis over Devontae Wyatt.
Yes. That's what it does, not just because he is a freak linear athlete. And now I wouldn't expect him to put up like shuttle numbers and cone numbers like even we saw from Jones. But the thing is, one of the biggest concerns was not just, can he be an impact as pass rusher, but can he consistently impact the running game even, because he had motor concerns. I wouldn't even call it motor concerns. It's just like men that big struggle to, when you're 6'6", 340, you better be low snap after snap after snap, or else you're going to get taken off the line. You go back and watch the Alabama game where he was forced to play like a real workload, 47 snaps in the national championship game, the most he played in any game in his entire college career. He was not the impact player consistently in the running game that you would want for, like, if you're drafting a nose tackle, he better be down after down impact in the running game, and he was not in that game because of, like I said, it's just difficult to have the stamina at that size. And now he came in, reportedly lost weight to go to the combine, and like I said, I don't think there's anyone who along the defensive line that needs to be over 330 pounds once you get to the NFL level. I just think there is diminishing returns the more just weight you put on in terms of like diminishing your stamina and being able to stay on the football field and being able to stay healthy. So I do think that's an issue with him, but it doesn't, like I said, just because he is a freak athlete doesn't eliminate all the reasons why you would be low on a guy like that.
We've had conversations on this podcast before about Jordan Davis and where would you feel comfortable taking him. I've mocked him to the Bills at the back end of the first round. He's fell out of first rounds in some of the mock drafts that PFF has put together. That's not happening, obviously. Where would you first feel comfortable? What team, what landing spot do you think where you say, hey, the value makes sense, right? It's not number one overall. Some people are saying bet some Jordan Davis number one overall. It's not that. But where do you feel comfortable in the value you're getting in a guy that, with all the concerns, the diminishing returns you spoke to?
It's, again, it depends on the scheme. It depends on what you need. I think someone like Chargers at 17, New England at 21 are teams where I think because of how they use or would need for the Chargers, how they would use for the Patriots, I think are two teams where I would start to get interested. But then again, still, it's like who's on the board there as well.
On to edge defenders. We had some absurd testers here as well. Before we get talk Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Boye, Jabo, can we bring up Nick Bonito? Because I think he got thrown to the wolves. He was nowhere near talked about enough because these other guys are putting up numbers that literally we've never seen before.
Well, and he ran with the defensive tackles.
Yeah, and he ran with the defensive tackles. That's right. He ran with the defensive tackles. Jordan Davis literally ignites that whole segment on fire.
Yeah.
Nick Bonito tested really well across the board almost.
And at 248 pounds, that was the thing we kept saying. It's like, how much does he weigh? With those undersized guys, you don't know. And when a guy doesn't win with power, doesn't even attempt to win with power, it doesn't matter if you're like 248 or if you're 220 pounds. That's just was his game, was straight quicks. And when your game's straight quicks, you better be quick. And I think we saw at the 4.5, 440, 35.5-inch vert. And like I said, all at 248 pounds, this dude is quick. 7.073 cone's not ideal. But again, we've talked about the cones and like how late these guys were testing with cones, that those aren't going to be your peak performances in some of these. So 7.073 cone, 4.23 shuttle is pretty legit though. So he was the kind of athlete that, despite being undersized, can still win off the edge. So Nick Bonito, one of the biggest risers coming out of the combine for me. 6'3", 248. Only 32.5-inch arms, which is just 23rd percentile among edge defenders. But man, upper 70th percentile, pretty much in every other drill. 40, 159, 10-yard split for Nick Bonito. 35.5-inch vertical is also impressive. 10-foot broad. A lot of really good numbers for Bonito, who tested with the defensive tackles and, as I've said, got buried in the media. They had Booker, 301 pounds, with the edge, and then Nick Bonito at 248 pounds with the DTs. Like, who's making these calls here?
It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. Other big winners, obviously, we talk a lot about Hutchinson, Boye, and Jabo, but let's get to Trayvon Walker, who
all-timer.
I cannot believe the numbers he put up. He again was overshadowed a bit by Jordan Davis. He, in my opinion, is not getting past the Giants at 7, maybe even the Giants at 5. I do not. A lot of the reports are now that the Houston Texans are locking him at 3. I don't think he gets past both of the Giants picks. I think his floor is 7th overall.
Interesting.
That, in my opinion, is not completely based in his tape. We're lower on his tape. His production wasn't great at Georgia. He, in my opinion, can't rush the passer at an effective level yet. Yeah. He doesn't have the moves yet. But when you test as well as he did, like almost better than Rashawn Gary in a lot of ways, you're going to go in the top 10. And with the rumors now coming from forecasters like Dave Brugler, like Daniel Jeremiah, like Mel Kiper, all going inside the top 10, again, I don't see him getting past the Giants at 7.
Yeah, I would say I could see him getting past the Giants. I don't see him getting past now with Seattle probably having number 9 overall. Atlanta, Seattle, Jets, those 3 all need it. Could use an edge. And so I don't think he gets past the end of those 3. So, but yeah, that was an all-time combine. Even if you just throw out the 40-yard dash, which, like we've said, they're all kind of pumped up. But 272 pounds doing a 35.5-inch vertical, a 10.3 broad jump, and my fave, the 6.893 cone. He's just an all-around freak of nature with 35.5-inch arms. He's going to have a high floor in the NFL when he gets there. Like, that's just, it's very...
It's hard to suck at that size and that athleticism.
You just can make an impact with very little in the way of technique because you are that freaky. So yeah, he is going to go, like you said, top 10, and probably rightfully so.
You highlighted Ajabo as a winner in your notes here, the Michigan edge defender, guy we've had on this podcast before. I wasn't overwhelmingly impressed with Ojabo's figures, actually. A 4.55 40-yard dash at 250 pounds is really impressive. 94th percentile among edge defenders, but he didn't crack 80th percentile on really any other metric he had. And also, short shuttle, 36th percentile, 4.45, and then opted out of the 3-cone. I do think there are some concerns with the change of direction testing. I thought he was going to be one of the freaks of the combine. Trayvon Walker gets past him. I'd say Nick Bonito might have had a better combine. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson had a better combine. He had the shortest, the lowest 3-cone we've ever seen from that position. He did it at 265 pounds. I thought Ojabo was going to be freakier. Now, it was still an impressive combine, but I don't think it was what it was billed as, at least.
Really? I thought it was a good box-ticking combine for him. Like, I didn't think he exceeded expectations, but that was just solid all-around numbers where it's like that's a edge you can develop basically with his frame at 6'4", 33.5-inch arms. Like, that's good numbers for him. Unlike Majay Sanders, who was in the similar mold.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And he was the biggest faller in the
Let's
PFF.
wait till we get to the losers. We'll get to the losers there. I want to talk a little Aiden Hutchinson, a little Boye Mafe before we get out of there. Aiden Hutchinson, we were watching it together. The 4.75 40-yard dash, 4.74 I think was what the official was. Only 56th percentile among edge defenders. Not Super impressive. Not what we expected. I think
he had the exact same 10 split as Trayvon Walker and Kayvon Thibodeau, though, which is like, if you're thinking about rush the passer, and yeah, speed comes into play, especially more so in today's NFL when you get to be the edge guy that gets optioned off of against quarterbacks. You're still going to have to chase down guys in space more so than you probably did in past as an edge defender. So speed still does matter to a degree. But if you're talking about like rushing the passer, 10 split matters more than your 40.
Yeah.
It is. That is getting off the ball. And so for his 10 split to be the same as guys who ran the 4.5s, that's a win. You know,
the biggest win obviously was his agilities. The short shuttle 4.15. His trainer told me he's run a 4 flat, a 4.05 before on hand times, and a 6.733 cone, 99th percentile among edge defenders. I think the fastest we've ever seen from a player at his position and his size. On that same call with his trainer today, he said they've clocked a 6.5, a 6.48 in training. Now, obviously, that's different. The story was, so there are technically 40 cleats and 3-cone cleats. Mm-hmm. So you wear different cleats depending on the drill that you're doing. And he was doing the short shuttle and 3-cone in practice with 40 cleats, and he kept slipping, and they ended up being scratches in a mock combine. He tells the story on the Hutch podcast, but detailing it here. Then he's like, fuck it, I'm going to go get my cleats. He gets the 3-cone cleats or the agility cleats, comes back. Everyone's already done. He asks the guys to just do it one more time. Both of them, 2 testers, 2 hand timers. They get a 6.5 flat on the 3-cone, and then like a 4.05, 4 flat on the short shuttle. Obviously, that's hand time, different than the testing. But these numbers are legit, right? This is not no fakeness in these numbers. And again, he's doing it like 10 p.m., right? He's doing it late night, and when you're on your legs all day, it's impressive what Aiden Hutchinson did in the short shuttle and 3-cone. Losers. Myjai Sanders. What happened? I need to know. I don't understand. His agent, I think, came out and said that he was sick and he lost some weight beforehand and plans to kind of reclaim some of these numbers or retest some of these numbers at his pro day. But to drop as many pounds as he did is kind of insane. It goes down to like 228, which would be 0th percentile among edge defenders in the NFL, and doesn't even test well, right? Like some people initially, when they saw his weight come out, were saying, okay, he dropped a bunch of weight to run fast. Broad, vertical, 40, 10-yard, all not as explosive as we need to see from Myjai Sanders, especially at 228 pounds.
So the thing is, you come out and do what he did. Did that information that you heard about him being sick, was that before he tested, or was that after he tested?
No, it was before. It was why he lost that much weight.
That was after he weighed in, or was it?
No, it was going into the combine, I believe.
Okay, so
that's my reason. I think you're getting at this too. The reaction is, why did he test?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying, like, if it's after the fact, of course you're going to make up an excuse about a guy being sick and, like, whatever. He wouldn't test that shit.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
But if it was prior to, then who's giving him the advice to test in the first place? But these are just, those are scary bad numbers. He was easily the most worrisome combine of anyone in attendance. When you show up 228 pounds and test like a average athlete to below average athlete for the position, that's, like I said, I wonder who obviously will be in attendance at his pro day here in a few weeks, but I wonder who's giving advice to even go out there in the football field, because they had to know these numbers weren't going to be good. Yikes.
Other loser, Zachary Carter of Florida, who expectations weren't really high for him, but he still did not meet the bill. Yeah, so
another guy who is a tweener and comes in with poor athleticism for a tweener. That's just, again, so he's 280-pound edge rusher. What are you going to do with 5-second 40 at that 27.5-inch vertical, not even 10-foot broad jump? That is an average base down edge, sadly. So not a great combine show for him.
Amari Barno, is it time to go back to the tape with the Virginia Tech edge? Ran a 4.36, an official 4.36, and was not nearly as light as Myjai Sanders. 1.54 10-yard split too, dude. That's faster than a lot of running backs that tested. That's insane.
He had
and the jumps matched too. These were not fast track numbers in my opinion. The jumps matched, all that stuff.
I want to go back to the tape and be like, what position can this guy catch a football? Because think about what this guy could do at tight end. 4.36 at that size, 6'5", 246. Like with 34-inch arms, you think about this guy, can he even track a ball at all? Because on his tape, he's not. You go back to last year when he's like Jason Oweh. Talk about him a lot, who put up numbers in a similar vein of just like, holy shit, this guy is just testing like an elite wide receiver at 250 pounds. And even Oweh was stronger into contact, was more physical, had more pass rushing moves than Barno, who's like I believe a senior coming out of Virginia Tech, who, man, on tape, there's just no physicality to his game to where I'm taking an athlete like that, though, and thinking, where else can I put? Like, let me find a role for him. I'm not sure if rushing the passer is it because of what that all entails. But at that athleticism, with what he put up, like I said, 4.36 at that size, there's got to be somewhere he can make an impact on the football field. And like I said, I would be throwing footballs at this guy, trying to make him catch, because that's unprecedented. That's like Vernon Davis type numbers at that size, which Vernon Davis didn't have the greatest ball skills, but he still made an impact because he was, a freak.
The official trade for Russell Wilson, to break up the show again, and I apologize, Jake Glazer. The trade is for Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, a rising offensive star, which could be Judy, Hamler, Fant, or Okui Bunam, I don't know. 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and a 5th. And then the Seattle Seahawks get Russell Wilson and a 4th back. I don't know why they threw the 4th back, which is just incredible. The rumor that it is Fant. It is Noah Fant. So it's Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, Noah Fant, all 3 of which aren't great players, but maybe helping. I don't know. Aren't great players in my opinion. 2 first-rounders, 2 second. It's essentially 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got some back for the Seahawks, and that's you'll have to replace for the Broncos. But I love keeping that receiving core intact. Where Russell Wilson usually throws the ball, he hasn't used tight ends traditionally over the course of his career. He doesn't really work the middle of the field. So to keep that receiving core with the 4 wide that they got and can throw out is, I think, exactly what you wanted.
Shall we pump the brakes on something here for the edge defenders?
Yes. I say pump the brakes on actually reshuffling your rankings based off of this combine because, one, everyone tested very well. I don't think there was a single guy who came in. Probably the worst tester of the bunch of the edges was Kingsley Enagbare, and that was only because it's 40. Only because it's 4.87 40. He had 36.5-inch vertical at 258 pounds, which is very good. So even he wasn't like a bad athlete by any means. I'd say pump the brakes on really reshuffling this edge class and your rankings in it until you see some 3 cones at pro days, until we see how these guys can change directions. Because, like I said, everyone, I'll say pump the brakes besides Majay Sanders, everyone really put up good numbers in this edge class that are translatable to the edge. And like I always say, when you're haggling over elite athletes, splitting hairs between elite athletes, go trust the tape on those. Like when everyone tests well and you're like, oh no, but Trayvon Walker's a little more elite than this guy's eliteness. So it's like they're all in the range that can be Pro Bowl, all pro type of athleticism. This entire edge class, pretty much. The guys we've talked about at the top here. So pump the brakes on really reshuffling until you really see some of these change of direction drills at pro days to know, are they linear dudes or can they actually bend and move off the edge?
I did have this tweet.
The way you thought they would.
I did have this tweet come out. I think all of these guys could go inside the top 40 picks. I think it's 8 total edge defenders. Interested in your take. Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Trayvon Walker, George Karlaftis, David Ajabo, Jermaine Johnson, Arnold Ebiketie, and Boye Mafe. All 8, I think, could come off the board in the first 8 picks. First 40 picks.
The one who I still want to see, and he didn't run the 40, but George Karlaftis had a 38-inch vertical at 266.
Yeah, I saw, and his broad was good too. I don't understand why he didn't run the 40 though.
That's reminiscent of, I'm trying to think, Myles Garrett went like 42 inches at 272, which obviously 4-inch difference is still pretty big, but that's an explosive dude. People, if you're talking about Karlaftis as a, high motor energy guy, no, he's got some juice behind him too.
DraftKings has just taken down its odds for the number 1 overall pick because Daniel Jeremiah has come out and said because the Jags are tagging Cam Robinson.
They're tagging him again?
They're tagging Robinson. And we've heard a lot of reports that they're going to go after a big splash in free agency for an offensive tackle. I think the Jags may be moving away from offensive tackle. Now, if you bet Aiden Hutchinson at plus 750 to go number 1 overall, it was value. Then it went down to plus 700. Then it was plus 500. I bet it at all 3 spots. I think it's going to be moving up. I think the Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu stuff is going to be coming down with them tagging Cam Robinson and all the stuff we've heard about them also looking at an offensive tackle in free agency. Cough, cough, Teron Armstead. Before we continue to move forward and get to linebacker, corner, secondary, you hate Cam Robinson.
I don't hate Cam Robinson. I hate, from a roster building perspective, pigeonholing yourself into a below average tackle. on a franchise tag back-to-back years because you're too scared to go make plays.
The fact that and here's the other piece of that too. The fact that the Jaguars waited to do it after the combine. I know the deadline's Tuesday and not a lot of tag decisions are made the Monday, Tuesday, but you wait till after the combine and you still come out of the combine seeing Evan Neal's ass at a svelte 330 and Ike Ekwonu do well at the combine. You come out of it and you're like, actually, we're still going to tag Cam Robinson. That, in my opinion, is
oh, if we're talking about number one pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That it is indicative of some of the decision making they're making. Some of the decision making at number one overall for Jacksonville, in my opinion. Western Southern is a proud sponsor of this podcast. While you focus on your roster moves, Western Southern helps you advance your money moves. Buying your first home, planning to start a family, wondering how to make your money grow? Western Southern's playbook of life insurance, investment, and retirement solutions helps you rest assured on game day. Team up to understand needs and address goals with a game plan built just for you. Get started at westernsouthern.com/PFF. Linebackers. We did not get the opportunity to see Leo Chanel bench press, and it was a big reason why anyone who bet over 39.5 bench reps did not win, but he still had a stellar combine outside of that.
Yes, man. 4.53, 40 for a guy 250 pounds. And that's the thing you keep going back to with Chanel. Like other guys tested out maybe more athletically on the whole, but he's unique. He is a 250 pounder. Like even Darian Beaver is one of the guys who we said came in, and he's like a traditional Sam, whatever, or bigger linebacker. He came in 239. Chanel came in a legit 250, put up 4.53. Put up a 40.5 inch vertical and put up a 10.8 broad jump. That is an elite explosive dude. Keep going back to the poor man, Micah Parsons. That's similar range.
Other winners at the
everyone. Dude, it was okay.
Yeah.
I said this on the pod prior, where I'm like, pick a loser from who's going to be who would struggle in this linebacker class. None of them. You watch these guys on tape, and it's just like athlete. So there are. I don't think. The only loser was Kobe Dean because he didn't test. He let everyone else kind of put those first mover advantage, get those numbers out there, get the hype train going behind them because all these guys were elite. And Dean came in 5'11", 228. His wingspan's still about the same as Nick Bolton, so I'm not worried about it. But I think with Troy Anderson, the Montana State running back, putting up a 4.42 40 with the Georgia the linebackers going 4.47 for Channing Tindall, Quay Walker 4.52, Brandon Smith going 4.52, the Penn State linebacker with Christian Harris, the Alabama linebacker, going 4.44. Like all these guys were just athletes for days. Chad Muma jumping 40 inches, Brian Asamoah going 4.56. There was everyone proved to be three down sort of athletes from the drills that they did do. That my pump the brakes here is don't pump the brakes. This linebacker class is sweet. Take one of these guys in the second and third round.
I will say I thought Channing Tindall on tape was wildly explosive. I did not see a 42-inch vertical.
I did, dude. He's stupid how quick
That's insane.
He gets up
42
to speed.
Inches at that size? He is
230, 42 vertical.
Oh, my God. Blitz him. That's all I'll say. Blitz him. Just throw him at the quarterback.
Yeah.
Throw him at the quarterback. Let him play downhill. Don't ask him to think for a second. Just throw him exactly where you need him to go, and he'll get there probably sooner than anybody else.
Yeah.
Anyone you want to go back to the tape on?
I do want to go back to the tape on Troy Anderson, Montana State linebacker, because I thought he was a good athlete, for sure. I thought he would be 4.59, low 4.6. But man, 4.42 at 243 pounds that's as fast as Devin White, Devin Bush, and bigger than both of those guys coming out. That's something. That's an interesting sort of developmental piece, especially when you consider this guy started his career at, I believe, running back, moved to quarterback before going to linebacker. He's only played linebacker the last couple seasons. So Troy Anderson, Montana State, I am officially going back to the tape and saying he was already high in the PFF board. He was like 64th, but I go back and say, what could this guy end up in time? So
let's get to cornerbacks. Winners at the cornerback position. Sam Houston State kid, pump him up. Zion McCollum comes in and tests legitimately across the board. He's a back to the tape guy for me. I have not watched a lot of Zion McCollum.
Yeah, the tape is not that. Like he tested out like Darrelle Revis. And you go back and look at Darrelle Revis's numbers compared to Zion McCollum, and they are step for step, like very similar. Now, he ain't Darrelle Revis on tape, but you're playing Sam Houston State. He's backing out into zone coverage the majority of his reps. You're a project. Like, that straight up is a project, but he's one of the traitsiest projects I've seen in recent memory in terms of just all-around athletic testing. So, yeah, Zion McCollum. Tariq Woolen also obviously stole the combine, 4.26, 200-plus pounds.
205.
205, 6'3", corner. Like, unique dude and another pure project. Now, I do worry about, I would rather, if you're telling me between McCollum's physical tools and Woolen's, I'll take McCollum's every day. I don't think the 6'4" with the long arms is doing as much as is doing you as much good as it can do harm in terms of 6'4". It's just difficult to flip your hips, difficult to be as smooth, difficult to get out of breaks and stuff as much. But dude, 4.26 speed's insane. So he is an explosive athlete. But I keep going back to, it's a red flag that a guy that size with that much speed got moved from wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like at UTSA. You would think the ease of which he could make an impact if he had any sort of coordination to him at wide receiver is so much easier than even cornerback. So, and did not grade well at cornerback, obviously, but new to the position. So, definitely still a winner, though, because of his athletic testing. And then Kyer Elam and Tariq Castro Fields, two long press corners, both going 4.3s. Very good numbers. Those are two of my favorite, silo corner, so the press cover 3 stuff. Guys who just need to work the vertical tree where you're not really mirroring guys, but you're really jamming them at the line, backing off into your deep third. Those are two of my favorites in this draft class.
He only ran the 40, Kyer Elam, but it was a 4.39. We'll do the rest of his drills at the pro day. 6'1", 191 pounds, Florida corner. Under 9-inch hands and only 31-inch arms, but still impressive 40-yard dash for Kyer Elam. Where the losers, Jermaine Waller, who is the Virginia Tech cornerback that has graded well for us in the past. He had low yards allowed per coverage snap in some instances. He's had some, I won't call flashes on tape, but there's been reason to kind of perk up a little bit. He was slow.
He's great ball skills, but he's 4.68. It's just
you're not playing corner at 4.68,
especially with fast track. Everyone cooking numbers, and you run that now. Hopefully he had an excuse like Maje did. I don't know. I haven't heard one, but that's cheeks, man. It ain't. And as much as you want, as much as guys have had success into the 4.6s, I've never seen a 4.68 a corner be that successful. And it's again, 4.68 at 180 pounds is different than Richard Sherman running a 4.6 at 205, 210. You are skinny and you're slow. That's a probably UDFA-esque time.
Kyler Gordon also expected maybe not to fall, but it wasn't a great combine for him. Came in at 5'11", 194 with 31-inch arms, but only ran the 40-yard dash. And while everyone's calling him this athletic freak at 194 pounds, you need to fly at that size. Just a 4.52 for him, and he doesn't do any other drill. That for a guy that's being billed as this uber athletic guy, potentially more athletic than Trent McDuffie, runs slower than McDuffie, and doesn't test for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's just not a great time. It's not a death knell, but he's considered, when you consider the athletic project, you better be the athletic project.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How about someone to pump the brakes on at the cornerback?
Oh, pump the brakes. Actually, didn't prep pump the brakes, but I will say pump the brakes on the same thing I kind of said for wide receivers. Pure speed to a degree, going low 4.2s like Kalen Barnes, there's diminishing returns to how much that gets you. It's more guys who know how to use their speed and play fast that you want. So you want the box ticked, but anything 4.45 and below is like gravy. There's, as long as the guy has that.
It's definitely not I think the combine and how it's presented can sometimes make it appear that the faster you go, the better you are. If you go from a 4.38 to the 4.36, you're going to be so much better in the NFL. Yeah. It's more of fit into this box. Obviously, faster is not worse, but fit into this box and have good tape. And that's why, you look at like you said last on the last episode, you look at the receivers who've run the fastest 40s. Who are they? Those are, the faster you go does not make you the better receiver. It's getting within this threshold and then also putting some good tape together and being able to play the actual technique of the position.
Yep.
Safeties. Jim Nagy's ready to vault Lewis Seen, the Georgia safety, after a stupid combine, the first safety off the board. Are you in that boat?
I'm ready to draft him in the first round after that. I am not ready to draft him over Kyle Hamilton after that. But, dude, it was sick. That's a heck of a combine for him. That's a well-deserved riser to it because his tape is awesome. Very physical type of safety. 6'2", 199, like 32 and a quarter inch arms, ticking every single box you could tick about the position. So I still obviously think Hamilton is unique in what he brings to the table, but this is a starting day one safety that you can rely on and pretty much pretty versatile too. Like I don't think he's going to be scheme specific, and that's why he could go in the first round.
It was an athletic safety group too. Daxton Hill of Michigan, and then also Nick Cross of Maryland. Nick Cross ran a 4.34. Daxton Hill a 4.38. We're expecting those guys to test well, but getting under the 4.4 mark for both those guys was good.
Yeah, Daxton Hill also went 6.57 cone, 4.06 shuttle, which
My God. Great cone.
Great numbers.
6.57.
And he's the guy who maybe not as versatile as some of the other guys, 191, not your box player. But the crazy thing about him was his wingspan at 6 foot was within an inch of Kyle Hamilton's at 6'4". Long arms, broad shoulders, 32 and a quarter inch arms. He's going to be a playmaker in one of those two high defenses. I would love to see him go to one of those where he gets thrown into man coverage a good deal, or not man coverage, but like quarters match ends up turning into man coverage, and that's where he goes. So love to see him there. The Nick Cross number did not get enough hype. I'll just say this: 4.34 at 211 pounds
that's nuts. He's also a built 211 pounds. That guy's shredded.
212. I don't even mean to shortchange him. 6 foot 212, going 4.34 with a damn near 11-foot broad jump. That is a rocked up safety that I think if you're looking for maybe a single high dude who can play a little enforcer over the middle of the field, this is probably your guy in this class because he can hit and he can fly.
You've also highlighted Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame safety, as a loser. A Golden Domer? Fellow Golden Domer?
I think he may have lost the most money of anyone here with his performance. Now, I'm not dropping him from the number 2 spot on the draft board, but say the Texans, say you're someone they're drafting the top 5, and you're looking at this freak. You want him to be a freak all across the board if you're going to really draft a safety that highly. And so for him to go 4.59, which is not, that's what I believe, that's the neighborhood of where Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons, that's the neighborhood where a lot of the best safeties in the NFL have run. Not a death note whatsoever. And especially when you watch his 40s and they were like, his form was cheek. He was all over the place. Like he'd start on one hash and then go the other. It was not his best for damn sure. But again, if you're drafting that highly in the draft, you want everything. And so if you're taking a safety and he goes 4.59, I think you might look elsewhere at the very top. So he's not going to fall too far. But the numbers are bigger in the fall. From 3 to 8 is like $10 million. Mm-hmm. So sadly, that isn't going to do him any favors. But still, he is safety 1. Don't worry too much.
Time to go back to the tape with Tyson Anderson, Toledo safety, 6'2", 209 with 33-inch arms and over 10-inch hands. Ran a 4.36, 35.5-inch broad, 10.3 broad, or no, 35.5-inch vert, 10.3 broad, 6.643 cone, which was second behind Daxton Hill, and a 4.28 short shuttle. Impressive week for Tyson Anderson.
Yes. So Toledo safety. Last time I hadn't actually even watched him post this year. I'd watched him prior to heading into this year, and was like, even like watching him on tape. Sadly, like didn't see. Like I know he's freakishly athletic, but he's a guy that like takes you a while to see that he's freakishly athletic, which I don't want to say shy away from, but I'm always a little worried about those guys. So excited to go back and actually watch him again and what he did in 2021 because he actually graded out all right this season.
That's it for the safeties. Actually, pump the brake. You already said kind of pump the brake, dropping Hamilton too far. I think I saw him drop in a mock draft to 10. Yeah. That feels probably the floor, right? You can't let Hamilton fall outside the top 10 for the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, where you want a safety to win, he wins still. Sub 7.3 cone. Ridiculous short area quicks for a guy that size and short area explosiveness with his jump numbers to where that's where you want a safety to win. And it's like his pure range, watch the tape, it's not an issue. So again, 4.59 to me, I'm not terribly worried. Pump the brakes on dropping him.
One more note before we get to the generational prospect bracket. I have an update from All-22, a sponsor of this podcast. Our friends at All-22 are unveiling the newest fantasy football game that hundreds of PFF employees are playing. All-22 uses PFF grades as one of its main scoring components and tests your ability to build a 53-man roster, offensive line included. If you've ever dreamt of sitting in an NFL front office, trading for Russell Wilson, maybe, you'll enjoy the scouting process. You'll enjoy All-22. Join the waitlist on all-22.com with nothing more than your email. All-22, less fantasy, more football. Before this podcast, Mike, Aiden Hutchinson was plus 750 to go number 1 overall. After tagging Cam Robinson, the Jacksonville Jaguars, he's now minus 175 to go first overall.
What was my rant last week? What did I go on the rant about Hutchinson?
What was not just my rant? What was my money? I put a decent amount on Aiden.
I'm just saying. Well, I'm saying you were banging some Aquanu.
I was banging some Aquanu.
Thicky Aquanu.
I was banging some Aquanu.
Yeah, you were believing the hype. You're like, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. Someone's saying Icky to number 1. It's real. And I'm like, objectively look at this. Take a step back and just think. And now I know the Jaguars and like objective thinking may not have gone hand in hand for some time now, but just looking at the class and what they need and what could make an impact and like how they need to help Trevor Lawrence, signing a tackle, getting a tackle that can play right now, that can play right now, seems like so much better process than drafting one number 1 overall and praying that a rookie hits the ground running. So yeah, I well done on betting it, well done, but we shall still see. I still hope that.
Well, if you do think they're going off at the tackle now, Aiden Hutchinson's minus 175 on FanDuel. Evan Neal's plus 480. Ike Ekwonu's plus 550. That is massive value change. That is a massive odds change for the number 1 overall pick in glaring favor of Aiden Hutchinson going number 1 overall. And the other edge, if say they want to go the number 2 edge on a lot of people's boards, Kayvon Thibodeau, plus 1,900. I think there's value on that. I honestly think there's value on Kayvon Thibodeau going 1, just since it's so far out. 19 to 1 odds. That's not terrible either. Generational prospect bracket, offensive tackle. I'll read the name. Oh no, delete the tweet.
So tweet.
Passing up, delete the tweet. Delete the tweet. I have my first one. This one was just, I think, has to be highlighted because I was kind of being a douchebag back in the day.
Oh yeah.
So in 2018,
Love those.
I won PFF's like MVP award, so like Employee of the Year award. It was called the Hornsby, based off the founder, and I tweeted this really cringy.
Holy shit! I don't remember this.
This is awful. This is
before I really like knew you though.
Yeah. So this is before I knew myself.
I like to think I changed. Yeah.
The tweet says, "Proud to announce that I brought home Pro Football Focus's Hornsby Award, PFF's version of the MVP for the 2017 season. Jesus Christ. To earn such praise in my first year with PFF is truly an honor, and I'm not done yet, as I plan to build on this hot start and it would be an even better 2018. Well, look at me now, motherfucker. I will say I did build on that hot start, though I do sound like a douchebag. I sound like an absolute douchebag in that. I might delete that tweet right now. That's what we might have to start doing.
You can't delete it, dude.
We might have to start doing that. On the delete the tweet, you just actually have to delete it. You actually have to send it back.
Screenshotting it. I don't delete my tweets unless they're. And the only tweets I delete are ones that are getting too much engagement, and I'm just like, I don't need these problems. Like, I don't need my mentions like filling up about like
just mute it.
A debate, like shit, and it just fills up my.
Just mute it. You don't have to delete those.
And I'm just like, I actually don't need to talk.
The next
this.
one is a quote from you.
Can we stay on this topic for a little bit?
Yeah.
About the Hornsby one. This is like what
the worst tweet you've ever seen.
No, this is like an athlete tweet.
Yeah.
That. The athlete doesn't themselves tweet it. It's like they have a social media manager that thinks this is how to best convey.
That's actually a great
that
take.
They're driven, but it sounds like any sane person reading it's like, ooh, it's a little. We don't need.
No, any sane person reading it, including myself now, it's not great. It's not really great.
Now it's you, but you made good. It would have been worse had you said that and then turned out to be a piece of shit. But you fulfilled what you said you were going to do. So you fulfilled what you said you were going to do. So hey, good on you. This one did not ever even come to fruition in mine. So that might even be objectively worse here.
Your delete tweet.
Well, it was a quote from whatever. I probably tweeted it too because I was loving Elijah Hood back in 2017 NFL draft. North Carolina running back. I loved him ever since high school tape. Thought he was going to commit to Notre Dame. Actually, may have committed to Notre Dame and decommitted. That was back when I did follow that stuff. But I tweeted out, Elijah Hood is this year's Jordan Howard, which what it take Jordan Howard as someone you really want him out of the game after. But that was after Jordan Howard has been back-to-back 1,000-yard years to start his career. So I said he's this year's Jordan Howard. He went undrafted. I'm not sure he ever had a carry in the NFL. Safe to say, he's been no years.
A little bit of a miss there on Elijah Hood. I think he was a Raider for a little bit.
He was. That's who signed him.
Last one here. This is from Mary Kay.
No, he was a 7th rounder. So
Seventh rounder?
Wasn't even that wrong.
This is from a Browns beat writer for Cleveland.com, Mary Kay. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Cabot?
Cabot?
I
think it's Cabot.
Browns Dorsey cited hand size as a criteria for a quarterback playing in Cleveland.
Okay, yeah. So I threw this one in there because I was looking for delete the tweets, and I had quoted this about something. But it was just like adding to what we had talked about last week, that like there are people that have said this. This has been said a lot of times. So we talked about it a lot. Don't really want to talk about it again. But I did think it was interesting. I can't remember what I quoted that with. It was something not funny. But,
Great. Thanks for including it in the delete the tweet segment.
But let's just move on.
Generational prospect bracket. Offensive tackle. 2015. PFF's OT1. Lael Collins goes undrafted in that draft for other reasons. 2016. Laremy Tunsil also falls down the board for other reasons. The gas mask will, in my opinion, be, when I die, one of the best day of draft stories.
I still made the joke literally yesterday. I asked, because Duke Manyweather, the offensive line trainer, is tweeting out that, that Trevor Penning won't make it to the Packers. And I was like, well, is he on a gas mask bar?
That's good. It still hits. It still hits.
Every time.
He still hits out of it. 2017, Ryan Ramczyk, that was your OT1. What a call there. I like Ryan Ramczyk in 2017 too. He has been great for the New Orleans Saints. Mike McGlinchey was OT1 over Colton Miller. I think you'd come back and say Colton Miller's outperformed what Mike McGlinchey has done in San Francisco. Jonah
over
Williams,
Isaiah Wynn too. Isaiah Wynn's probably been the best.
2019 was my guy. One of my favorite interviews I've ever done. I can't believe that was 2019. That's 4 years ago. Jesus. Jonah Williams, the Alabama offensive tackle. I think he was the 11th ranked player on PFF's draft board that year. 2020, Andrew Thomas over Tristan Wirfs, over Jedrick Wills, over Mekhi Becton. 2021, Penei Sewell. Obvious there. That was the consensus. And then 2022, right now, is it changing though? Charles Cross.
No.
Okay.
I had the one that kills me still. I had Tristan Wirfs ahead of Andrew Thomas going into their junior years. They both graded out really well. And I don't know, for some reason I had Thomas, flipped them. But they were like, before the season, they were next to each other, just Wirfs ahead. After the season, they were next to each other, but just Thomas ahead. So neither of them are going to be the generational prospect. But let's get into the debates. Lyle versus Charles Cross is an interesting one. Really like Lyle Collins. Was not prototypical, and I think I lean Cross in this debate because of the pass protection stuff. Like, you go back and watch LSU, and obviously played in the SEC, faced top tier edge rushers. But that LSU offense was, I can't remember who the OC was back in 2014, but they did not pass. That was back in the 6-3 days of LSU when it was defense and run game. So
I do think you have to factor it all in though, right? You have to factor in the off-field stuff too. Like, at the time, Lael Collins was falling for that perspective, right? Or are you going to rule that out? I guess you're not going to factor the bong rip into Laramie's.
The bong rip. And it wasn't even, that was just like a report of his ex-girlfriend had been murdered, I believe, at the time. And he was like wanted for questioning because obviously like you're going to question someone who got murdered, ex-boyfriend. But it literally was like, no, there was not actually off-field issues with Lyle Collins. There was no, like you said, like you worry about, I don't know. Remember Dalvin Cook had to take a team picture with and without him because of, quote-unquote off-field issues that just weren't disclosed. There was none of that with Lyle Collins. Like, he was a clean prospect, and just no one wanted to draft the guy who had just maybe been implicated in a murder. So that was, and it was the timing of it that made it such an issue for him, and why after, I believe he ended up saying, after he dropped out of first or second round, he's like, don't draft me. I don't want to go to wherever you're going to draft me because you'd rather be a UDFA and pick where you can go and then closer to your second contract once you are. So I lean Cross though. That's a long way of saying I still lean Charles Cross.
I'll ride with you on Cross. I don't know if I don't remember scouting Lael Collins a ton. I remember after some of that stuff, I don't know. I know more about Cross than I do about Collins.
Yeah. This one's tough though. Now we get to Laremy Tunsil versus Penei Sewell, because I love Tunsil. He had great tape at Ole Miss. Obviously a lot of projectable tools. But I love Penei Sewell.
I think Penei Sewell has to be the winner here.
Yes, this is probably the biggest heavyweight matchup of the first round.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's a tough break for Tunsil because Tunsil probably dusts a handful of these other guys.
Very tough break for Tunsil.
You hate to see him. You hate to see him go down like that.
I know.
It's an 8-9.
All right. Ryan Ramczyk against Andrew Thomas.
I might lean Thomas. Ramczyk was awesome. But a lot of people build him as a right tackle only, and he's only played right tackle in the NFL, essentially. Andrew Thomas, though he wasn't the consensus OT1, I think a lot of people felt that he was an obvious top 10 type of player. I think I might lean Andrew Thomas over Ramczyk, and I love Ramczyk coming out.
Ramczyk had a sick ascension. I compare it. I feel like he's another one of those guys, and why I'm so high on like Ryman this year, that I love those guys who don't play a ton of football and then are good at tackle. Or like doesn't take him a long time to then be very good at tackle. Because he was a top recruit, quit football, went to a D3 school in Wisconsin, ends up getting talked back into playing football, plays football there, transfers to Wisconsin. In his transfer year, everyone's raving about, holy shit, like the guy who's sitting out for us on the scout team is the best offensive lineman we have. Starts 1 year at left tackle, gets drafted last pick of the first round, and all of a sudden is like one of the best tackles in the NFL. So I loved him as a prospect because of that sort of kind of like ascension that he made. But like you said, Andrew Thomas he ticked a lot of boxes. He did in the SEC. He was very powerful dude. And he's been very good as himself this past year when he was healthy. So I lean Andrew Thomas in that matchup.
Next matchup, we have Mike McGlinchey versus Jonah Williams. I think we're going to lean Williams here. You were super high on Williams coming out.
Williams.
You love Williams, even with the arm length stuff. You love Williams.
Concern, sure. Just thought he was very steady. I thought high floor is how I would describe Jonah Williams. McGlinchey, not as much. Jonah Williams is just like, he's going to be good. And at the tackle position, that's incredibly valuable. Just knowing a guy will be a solid pass projector at the next level. And that's, I think, what he's been. He's not been super high end. Like, you never were going to get a guy that looked like Laramie Tunsil or Penei Sewell or whatever. You weren't going to get highlights. But we're going to get a lot of lowlights either. So, yeah, I like Jonah Williams in that one.
Next round?
Next round.
It's going to go Cross versus
Jonah.
I think we're going to have to go Cross here, right?
Yeah.
You like Cross a lot.
I do like Cross a lot. This one's tough, though. I think
Williams also had that, in my opinion, a lot of people talked about his like inside-out versatility. You play him at guard, you play him at center, you can do whatever we want with him. He's just like guy who played up and down the line of scrimmage at Alabama. He started as a true freshman. I think that has value compared to Cross, though. With Cross, the concerns more are he's not this top-tier athlete, but he tested really well in Indianapolis. I thought he was a winner.
It's not. No one's concerned about Cross. He's not a top-tier athlete. I don't think. I mean, he's a much better athlete than even Jonah is.
Yeah.
So I don't think
not so much that he's not a top tier athlete, but people were like, he's not Ike Ekwonu, he's not Evan Neal as an athlete, and that's why people were considering him. I mean, Dan Jeremiah had him falling all the way to 22 in his latest mock draft for that reason, for the reason that he's not going to be the tester these other guys are.
Well, I think did he? He never gave a reason why I had him at 22. I thought, but he's not the NFL ready prospect that Jonah probably was. Really, like in terms of just seeing and doing NFL concepts, obviously, in Mike Leach's offense. So I do think that that's a little worrisome, but I will lean Cross in this matchup, honestly.
Let's lean Cross.
I'm going to go Cross.
Cross it is.
And then Penei Sewell against Andrew Thomas.
Sewell.
No shade to Andrew Thomas, but we know who's winning this one already. It's going to be Penei Sewell, because Penei Sewell versus Charles Cross, I'm still leaning Penei Sewell. Like, he was freakishly good as a true sophomore. Yeah, in the Pac-12. Not quite the same, but 19 years old, moving 23-year-olds, 24-year-olds with ease. I still am excited to see where he ends up physically, because he's not there yet. Like, this guy ain't a finished product by any means in what he can be. I believe he's younger than Nephi Sewell, the linebacker, and the Utah linebacker who's coming out this year. He's still younger than him. Like I said, Penei Sewell was the best tackle prospect we've seen.
Closing thoughts here. Let's finish with the Russell Wilson trade. Call out an official winner, loser to this one. It was Russell Wilson and a 4th-round pick. That's what the Broncos are receiving, trading for Russell Wilson and a 4th-round pick. Seattle gets Drew Lock, the quarterback from Denver, Shelby Harris, defensive lineman from Denver, Noah Fant, the offensive rising star, the tight end out of Iowa, former first-round pick. Then they also get 2 first-round picks, one of which will be this year, the 9th overall pick, 2 second-round picks, and a 5th-round pick. In my opinion, unless Russell Wilson is horrendous in Denver, this feels like an L for Seattle. This isn't getting Locke, Harris, and Fant is not the rebuild players you want. Harris is old. I don't understand why you're prioritizing those players at all. I think Harris is a good player, but he's not going to be a part of this rebuild. He's not going to be on this team when you're eventually Super Bowl competitive. I don't understand picking up Drew Lock. I'd rather see Geno Smith start the 17 games. Some people are saying, well, he'll captain the tank. Why not let Geno Smith captain this tank or anyone off the street? Why involve him in this package, in my opinion? Noah Fant, like maybe you like him and thinks he's going to break out as the guy that people build him as coming out of Iowa. This looks like an L for Seattle. I don't see this being the package probably they wanted. I remember when I did my mock draft trading Russell Wilson to Washington, they got more in return. They got 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and I believe like 2 third-round picks. I think I'd rather have those than some of the players I got in. I don't see this as a win for Seattle. And yeah, you give up 2 firsts and 2 seconds to go get Russell Wilson. I still think this is a win for Denver, who is now like objectively Super Bowl competitive, at least more so than they were before.
I do think it is a win for Denver. I do also think, though, Russell Wilson's end of the year did not help his trade value. Like I think teams are still a little worried. It's like, is that a sign of things to come, or was that just an aberration with the finger? So I don't think that helped. But like I said, I do think it's a win for the Broncos. I think it's kind of just par for the course for the Seahawks. Like you said, the players included. Locke, quite obviously, is whatever, but Fant is going into year 4 of his rookie contract. You would have the 5th-year option with him should you want to exercise it. Shelby Harris is costing kind of a lot the next couple of years for a defensive tackle. Cap hits for the Seahawks of like in the $8 million range, but he's a solid player, depth player. But like, you're the Seahawks now. You are not 2 years away. These guys, you're going to have them for 2 years. You're not 2 years away. Sorry, you're not. You are 3. You've set the timeline to about 3 years away from actually getting back there. And now you got yourself draft capital to do so. But like I said, throwing in these players, I wouldn't have said just keep them, but I would have been like, let me get some more draft capital out of you. Like, let me get another 2nd round and 3rd round out of you instead of throwing in these players, which I think the Broncos may have done for cap purposes, honestly.
Last piece of this, and I know we've talked about it a ton on the show, but some are saying, is this not just enough to grab Russell or Deshaun Watson if the legal stuff clears? Are they making a second swing of the bat for a quarterback, or do you think this is a complete rebuild?
Seahawks?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. That would be... Dude, you imagine going from Russell Wilson to Deshaun Watson? Just like...
change of pace in the locker room for sure.
A little bit. I doubt they're...
Yeah, I don't see that either. I don't see that either. Some people are saying that. I don't see that either. I think this is a white flag if you're Seattle. Like, you can't come out of this as a Seattle Seahawks fan hoping for a playoff competitive team next year and feel good. This is a white flag. This is like, hey, the Russell Wilson era is over. We're going to reset. Yeah. We're going to recommit to a new young quarterback. Not Drew Lock, ideally, but a new young quarterback and start to make some decisions then.
Man, how do you feel if you're DK Metcalf?
Oh, or Tyler Lockett.
A year away probably from like negotiating an extension, and you're probably going to put up. I mean, if Geno Smith's your starter, Drew Lock's your starter, you ain't getting 1,000 yards this year. I mean, maybe, but like, you'd have felt much better about that if Russ your starter.
Until next time, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. What a fantastic episode. Got hit with some handful of news. I'm sure more is coming as the trade deadline or the franchise tag deadline comes near. Like I said, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, Tailgate.